Welcome to the Connected Campus podcast, where we explore the ways that diverse professionals are working every day to optimize their efforts to recruit, retain, and graduate their students.
So I always appreciate the opportunity to get the chance to talk with a current sitting campus CIO to hear about kind of their perspectives, what they're experiencing, their advice and everything. So so excited for this episode to talk with somebody who's just come in as leading the information technology team at University of Nevada, Reno. So we'll be talking about sort of his experience and perspectives on just sort of the broader world of higher ed IT. So we'll start out, Sasi, if you want to introduce yourself and your professional background, and then we'll get into the rest of our questions.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Dustin. So my name is Sasi Pillay. I'm the new Vice President and Chief Information Officer at University of Nevada, Reno. I started this position in February, but I've been in the higher ed business now, approaching close to 10 years. Previously, I was employed at Washington State University, again as a Vice President and Enterprise CIO, and I've been there for 7 years. Then prior to that, I was at University of Wisconsin System. I was a CIO there for a couple of years. But most of my career I spent at NASA. So a lot of the things that I've done as Chief Information Officer at NASA Glenn Research Center, as well as the Chief Technology Officer for NASA at headquarters, always was dealing with information technology and how to leverage information technology for the common good. Because I always said from my early days as a career, the success of an IT organization is not driven by IT itself. It's actually how successful have you made your constituents. And that's how I measure myself and my organization. And that's what I carried along all these years. So it's a challenging position, just like at NASA, in the sense that NASA also had a distributed environment. The university campuses, as you know, distributed governance. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a say. They need to be listened to, and then you have to make a decision. And that's I hope I'm doing it the what I would call uh, way that I have always practiced, which is to listen first and learn and then lead. I put that in that order. So when people ask me, do you have a 100-day plan at UNR, University of Nevada, Reno? I said, I don't, because I don't know what needs to get done. And the only way is by having a lot of meetings, talking to people, getting their input, identify their pain points and challenges and what their vision is for their department or their school, and then how IT can partner with them to realize their dream. And so that, to me, that is how a IT organization should be fashioned and perform.
Well, I guess, yeah, because I know I want to make sure to give a little bit of focus to your background at NASA, which is just sort of a fascinating, unique part of your story and journey and everything. But I'm curious, maybe at that sort of like decision point, how sort of like deliberate that was, or if it's sort of like happenstance and you just found to sort of like it. But I imagine there's maybe the similar kind of environment of like working for the public good, of being in
Mhm.
education and being, at NASA and everything. But like, what made you decide to go into higher education
Yeah.
at the time that you did?
Yeah. So I worked at NASA for a very, very long time, and I've done a lot of different positions, all in IT and related to the use of IT at NASA. So I thought it was time that I tried on a different challenge, but and it's not going back to my roots. Soon after, even before I got my PhD, I was employed by Case Western Reserve University as an assistant professor. So I started my career in the academic side of the house. Then I thought, okay, I'll go work for NASA for a few years, but that turned out to be pretty much a long career at NASA. Then I felt at home coming back to the university. Like we always say, uh, it's always providing service to people a lot smarter than you are. And so the university and NASA is very similar, engineers and scientists in both places, faculty, and so on and so forth. It's about providing them with a service that they would feel comfortable with contacting the IT organization to be a partner. So In those kind of things, it's very slim. Now, one additional role that the universities play, of course, is education. That's our main business. So education, research, and outreach, those three things. So NASA does a lot of research. NASA does a lot of outreach. NASA also has a program in education, provides a lot of curriculum for high school students and elementary school students, and then of course at the college level and so on and so forth. So when you compare NASA and the higher ed environment, it's very similar. I say, and the other thing is that the content is very similar. It's about providing service. Whether you're running an email system, you're running a research enterprise, it's all about service and how you deliver value uh, with enhancing the mission, reducing risks, and then being as cost effective as possible. So the content is almost identical. The context is, as I described, is also quite similar. So it's not a huge leap to go from being at NASA to do similar things in a higher ed environment.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess yeah. The way that you framed it, yeah, definitely makes it make even more sense. And I guess because that idea too of like transitions and that you're a few months into your tenure at UNR, and you mentioned sort of just being almost kind of a vessel or very much like not coming in with a lot of preconceived notions and everything. But I guess can you talk a little bit more about your approach getting settled in into this new leadership position and everything? It's like I think there's certainly like I think through an interview process and sort of a evaluating the institution, you might sort of generally have an idea or just sort of like how they do things or what they're sort of grappling with, who
Mm.
they were looking for to sort of help lead them. But I guess yeah, just if it's generally how you sort of navigate a situation like this or how you're navigating it at UNR at this moment in particular, just any more sort of depth you can give to that sort of like coming in as sort of a new leader in that space.
Yeah, and I think that any institution has challenges, whether it is enabling and furthering the mission or reducing what I would call the enterprise risk, and then third is really doing it cost effectively. So I always followed those three principles, no matter what job it is. What can I do to further your mission? Try to understand what is your vision. What, as a dean, where would you like to take the school? What are your challenges? And where can I be a partner with you to help you achieve your dream? So to having these types of meetings and understanding what they desire is critical. It's almost like you going to a doctor's office. You cannot prescribe the medicine that you need a priori. You need to have a conversation with the physician. The physician needs to have a conversation with you as a patient, understand the context, the difficulties, the challenges, and what you're after. Then you can get into a regimen of whether it's diet, exercise, medication, whatever. So to me, that is the process of dialogue and understanding each other and understanding one's challenges and one's vision is crucial in terms of putting together a program. Whether it is so, you don't design this program in isolation. It's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, and I guess for that metaphor, it's like, yeah, you want to take all of that in because again, you can't just sort of like be like, oh, my back's sore. It's just kind of like, all right, well, here's like one thing to treat. Like you're just treating the
Yeah.
symptom, not the core problem, or something. Like you're trying to take in all of the variables and context, and information, and history to inform your prescription as you are,
Mhm.
leading the team there. And yeah, and I think that's definitely like a smart way to go about it of like obviously like you are going to combine your training and expertise and experience and all that to creating this prescription that is contoured to the unique variables of the institution there. But uh yeah, I mean, it's always a good reminder because I think it can be that idea of like somebody coming into a space. It's like, well, they chose me because I'm so great, right? I should just kind of like, kind of hit the ground running and all that. And it's like, yes, to an extent, but you want to try to temper that to, not be too presumptive and
Yeah.
take your time to kind of see how they do things. Because I think even as much as higher education, like you said, has that sort of collegial, very kind of collective decision making and everything. Uh, like again, like you are going to be the one that's going to be making a decision. It's like just trying to really balance kind of the empowerment to make things happen and like figure out the way that they kind of embody that value of kind of collegial um, sort of administration and everything like like that. But uh, I'm curious, I guess, like you said, there's a lot of parallels between NASA and higher ed and everything, from your perspective. Like, is there any sort of advice or particular experience that you had, like that you reflect on and still sort of like I'm just trying to see like parallels where it's like, oh yeah, I experienced this for the first time at NASA, and I still sort of use that as sort of a lesson or sort of a
Yeah.
something that you can kind of think of. Yeah.
Yeah, the three tenets that I spoke about: mission enablement, reduction of enterprise risk, and doing it cost effectively. I mean, they are universally applicable, and that's a language that the board of trustees understand. They don't need to be experts in IT, but you speak to those three things. No matter who your listening audience is, they can appreciate that. We don't talk about network uptime, and how many emails we looked at and how many uh, phishing emails we had and so on. I mean, those are kind of operational statistics. It's really of no value to the end customer. The end customer is, to me, answers to those three dimensions. Then the other thing that I always practice is collaboration. At the end of the day, our partners need to feel when they look back, hey, this relationship has been mutually beneficial. Uh, and so it's not us forcing ourselves into a collaboration. It's we want to be identified as a sought after partner. To me, that adds a significant amount of value, prestige, and also to our staff. Then they feel respected, right? If people, hey, they want to work with us because of all the wonderful things we have done with them in the past. Then the other principle that I've used a lot is identifying who the lead users are in any community and then working with them to further their interest, because then other people see that success and others are willing to join the team. So I'm a firm believer, in a sense, to work with a coalition of the willing and who are willing to force us, just like they're forcing themselves to push the envelope. It We learn a lot by working with those types of individuals. So that's a different side of IT, in the sense that they're not so much interested in uptime, 6 nines or 9 nines or whatever. They want things to work. They're in the proof of concept stage. They want to know if their idea is going to pan out, and so on and so forth. They don't care about how to scale it or how to operationalize it. So working with those type of individuals, pushing the envelope, uh, helps us to push ourselves to deliver better, higher quality, more valued on services. So identifying those lead users and working closely with them really primes the engine for innovation.
Yeah. And it's always just like interesting in these kind of conversations when like because obviously it's just like yes we live in a world of human beings just interacting with each other, so it's like yeah you're kind of brushing aside this sort of like jargon or like
Mhm.
different things like that. It's like okay, we're gonna have these three areas. That's how we can sort of help guide decisions of what we do or don't do. Is it sort of following in this and sort of embodying our mission and everything else like that, but then like as you're sort of working through that, just recognizing sort of like human nature and like what are the things that sort of resonate with just the entire sort of community of stakeholders and everything like that. And then like you're saying, sort of like lead users and sort of advocates and collaborators and just people that are going to sort of work well with you towards the things that are sort of beneficial and drive you towards where you want to go. Like it just that human element of even working in a highly technical field like is just so important. It's always just like uh an important reminder to not kind of get lost too much in sort of the shiny new tools or all the kind of technical kind of jargon and figures. It's like, hey, like that's for us. That's for us to sort of process and sort of interface with and do all that and figure out what are sort of the uh, relevant pieces to sort of share out and who can we sort of lean on to help just help do what we need to do and help just navigate change and all those sort of things that can be kind of
Mhm.
messy at times. It is tough, and you just need those good advocates and champions and whatever you might want to call them.
Yeah.
Uh,
One thing, additional one thing that I would add is, as technologists, we are so happy to deliver the technology as opposed to thinking about the solution. So, in my humble opinion, delivering technology is only half solving the problem, only by 50%. Because even after delivering technology, if your adoption is next to zero, you have not made a difference. So one of the things I constantly talk to my staff is, because as technology, we're happy. Hey, we got it to work. We delivered a new solution. We got to go work on the next project. I said, wait a minute. What have you done to improve adoption? Engagement with our customer community? Have we done campus forums? Have we sent out emails, and have we had one-on-one discussions? Do we have office hours? What are the things we're doing to make sure people understand and we increase their awareness of these technologies, which will benefit? Because at the end of the day, like goes back to my principle about the IT organization is only as successful as we make our constituents. And the constituents can only be successful if we work with them so they can adopt the newer technologies, the newer processes, and newer ways of doing business. So to me, that is an equally important component. It can't be just technology.
yeah. I mean, I've been realizing that a lot over the years that I've worked in higher technology. Is like, yeah, that idea where it's like, oh, it's the shiny new thing, and the idea of like why there's all these videos on the internet just like unboxing things, because it's like, yes, that's fun. It's just like it's it's new, it's fresh, and whatever, but like the the adoption, like you said, the implementation and all that, like if that is not something that is intentionally thought of beforehand, like it's like, okay, if we're deciding on this new solution, this this tool, this platform, whatever else, and we haven't thought through, like, I mean, again, just even the people or the processes, how we're going to evaluate and sort of maintain and sort of all that, like, yeah, like you said, you're already losing sort of half the battle, or you're sort of like working with hands tied behind your back kind of thing, where it's just like, cool, we have it, it works and all that. But um yeah, I mean, and part of that can just be like, yeah, like how you talk about it, like how you normalize that change, like why are we going from this thing to this thing, and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. And I think that it's just refreshing too, just hearing so many people talk about like that idea of like not being a solution looking for a problem, like knowing
Right.
it's like, okay, like the outcome that we are able to achieve with this new tool satisfies a very clear, explicit, tangible issue that's been brought up in forums, or any sort of feedback or whatever, whether it's student, faculty, staff, whomever, all of the above. But so I think, yeah, it's an interesting moment where I think, I don't know. And I guess I'm just an eternal optimist, but I think like we're getting
Mhm.
to a moment where it feels as though the sort of harmony of technology and people and all that, like people are sort of seeing how technology can sort of supplement still sort of humans interacting with each other, which is obviously so core to sort of the educational experience. It's not, if it is replacing anything, it's replacing the things that sort of are just sort of tedious and rote processes or whatever, that allows us to sort of interact with each other in a more substantive way. So uh, yeah, it's a really really interesting moment, and I think I mean, there's no shortage of things and sort of the
Mhm.
in this moment that have been sort of changing and sort of prediction that people are making. But like from your perspective, like what are you looking forward to in the world of higher ed IT? Because I think we're in sort of a moment of digital transformation. So I'm curious sort of
Yeah.
what you're tracking, what's keeping your attention.
So one of the things that I focus on, and you talked about why you went from NASA to the university, and it's a service mission. So I feel very very passionate about educating the next generation. My dad was a college professor, for all pretty much all his life, and so I think it sort of runs in my blood. Is what can we do to make the next generation successful? So, what excites me is what kind of tools and technologies can we deliver so every incoming student at to UNR, University of Nevada, Reno, is successful, and their experience has to be as top notch as possible. So, providing access is important. So uh, it's really crucial that we are embedded, and I think everybody who works at a university feels that same way. So we are connected with a common vision and commitment to the next generation to make sure every student that comes to our universities are successful. And what's the technology piece? There's what is the advising component? What is student affairs doing? We all have a role to play, but technology kind of threads all these, because at the end of the day, even for student affairs or admissions or financial aid, packaging, whatever, all those requires tools, and most of them are embedded in IT.
Yeah. Well, and just even that like language change, I've just been hearing a lot more like that idea of like, folks in higher ed being those partners and like you said, like wanting to feel that people feel comfortable coming to you and working with you and all that. It's not just sort of
Mhm.
like, you all from upon high just casting down technology and just being like, good luck,
Mhm.
we'll be here if you need like a help desk ticket or something. But
Yeah.
um and I think, yeah, like working in an educational environment with this moment of digital transformation, it's refreshing too of like those values, like you're saying, of like access, of like trying to uh, close digital equity gaps, or just
Mhm.
like technology helping more people access high quality education and all those sort of things. So it's, you know, honoring, yeah, like a desire sort of goal for yourself, impacting the next generation, and just, yeah, like creating more access through technology and having that be kind of something that drives sort of the heart, sort of all of this. But um, and I guess, yeah, I mean, we can wrap up, and I feel like you're already sort of leading up to it so perfectly. 'Cause that's why I don't want to like lose the thread. But like, we ask everybody at the end the same question. So curious what you have to share here of what a connected campus looks and or feels like to you.
Mm. Yeah, so that's, you can answer that from a technology perspective, but I like to answer that from an experience perspective. I want the student walking into UNR that they are not dealing with different departments. It is about the total experience. In other words, the VP in student affairs should know everything and anything about that student. Similarly, the dean of the school or deans of the different schools, or the admissions office. In other words, what I just did, in fact, just over the weekend over graduation, I was just talking to our president. I said, one of these days, I would be very, very happy if we can know half about our students as Target knows about you and I. That whole customer experience has to be paramount. Yes, we are in the education business. We want to make everybody successful, but that what that student experiences has to be top notch. There should be, now translate to technically, what does that mean? No matter who they see on campus, no matter what their role is, they should be able to understand where that student is coming from. They should have a whole single pane of glass, because we have data on that student and each department keeps a very siloed data. But when that student sits down in the classroom or does a project or goes to see an advisor, goes to check in with the faculty member, that individual who's trying to help that student succeed should have the entire history. I mean, they should be like an open book. It's not, oh, I got to find out from student affairs or which clubs you belong to. I don't have to add all that data. We should be able to present it in a way so the people who are helping the student has the whole story. And so, student success, as you probably know, is not just driven by classroom performance. Yes, that is a huge critical success factor, but that alone is not enough. Financial ability, that's a huge thing, right? Sense of belonging is so critical. And of course, health and wellness. And so I can go dimension by dimension. And unless we put all this data together and look at the student holistically, we're not able to do the best job for that particular student for them to succeed in whatever chosen profession or discipline they end up in. So, having a degree plan for every student coming to UNR is critical. Having a degree recommender that keep track of progress of the student, as they go through semester by semester and then suggesting alternatives. It's just almost like a navigation system you put in your car when you're driving from point A to B and you're supposed to take a right turn and you miss that intersection. It auto corrects and says, oh, at the next intersection, you better take a right turn so you can get back on track. Or maybe another path with less traffic. I look at these kinds of world life experiences, what our students are experienced to. So why are we not providing that to our students today? Technology is there, the data is there. It's our the will and the art of the possible, right? And so continue to push the way we offer these services to our students so they know that we are totally customer focused. Our only interest is about their success.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And yeah, I mean, it's like, it feels very like a futurist sort of like, version that you're laying out. But like you said, it's like, it's within reach. Like this is like
Yeah.
a near future. Like it's not some sort of like, sci-fi thing, but like that idea of kind of like what I was sort of hearing is like personalization on both sides. The idea like
Yes.
I, as a student, kind of have something that's kind of contoured around me, but sort of implicit in that is that, yeah, like faculty and staff can have sort of a, sort of single source of truth to be like looking in and
Mhm.
seeing like, okay, student who just came into my office, I can kind of get that full sort of in the moment sort of snapshot of like who you are, what you do, what uh, are studying and where you're at, and all those sort of things. And because like it is obviously like you'd want any campus to feel kind of collaborative and sort of open to where like, yeah, like somebody can check over their shoulder and ask questions, like, but they shouldn't have to kind of know the
Mhm.
sort of just intuitive kind of aspects of a student's uh experience on campus. And it all just sort of kind of feeds in itself too of like, if you have that like sense of belonging and supportive
Mhm.
environment and all these resources, it's going to help you be better in your classes, which is going to just help you
Mhm.
get more towards your your academic goals and personal goals and everything as a student. So um yeah, so personalization, I feel like, very implicit in sort of your vision of the connected campus. So I really appreciate you kind of advocating for that and sharing all that you did and hanging out for the podcast here.
Mhm.
I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity. I really had a good conversation. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks for listening to the Connected Campus. Please leave a 5-star review for the show and share it so others can discover us. Make sure to also subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Connected Campus.